Son of Man. Isn't it interesting that Jesus would choose the title Son of Man as his preferred title? Son of Man is a Hebrew idiom, which just means the human. And Jesus referred to himself as the human. As the video we just watched explained, this was a deliberate allusion to the dream that Daniel had. And I want to zoom into one of these visions that Daniel had in Daniel 7, verse 13 and 14. It reads, "I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven, there came one like a son of man. And he came to the Ancient of Days, and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion, and glory, and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that shall not be destroyed." So here we see in this passage one like a son of man, that is, a human, coming to the Ancients of Days, that is, God. And this human was given dominion, glory, and a kingdom. Now that language is the language of Genesis 1. And this is where the Bible Project shines, in that it draws these hyperlinks, these links from one text to another, and you see the story of the Bible as one unified narrative. The language is a language, like I said, of Genesis 1, where humans were given dominion over the whole world, over all creation, and crowned with the glory of the image of God. And then the peoples, languages, and kingdoms which this vision in of Daniel had. These are allusions to the Tower of Babel, where there were many nations and many tongues. This human in Daniel's vision would reign over them all forever. So you see, when Jesus calls himself the Son of Man, he is making himself to be the fulfillment of this vision. But the backstory to there being a human required to rule over the nations was that humanity had no representative who was fulfilling their call as an image bearer. The throne which God had made in Eden for humanity was vacant. Our race, our human race, was missing the mark when it came to our vocation. We had no leader to take us back to our high calling and vocation. That was until Jesus was exalted on the cross. There, Jesus endured every evil that we could design, and yet he pardoned us and called us to be with him in his kingdom. He gave us his Spirit so that we could be like him and rule with him and fulfill our vocation. And the amazing thing is that what Jesus did was not superhuman, but truly human. We often try to humiliate our human nature because of the evil that we're capable of. But God made us to be good. God made us to be righteous. God made us to be his sons and daughters, just like Jesus. In Ephesians 4, Paul writes the following words. Speaking of Jesus after he had ascended and given us gifts, he says, "And he gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the shepherds and teachers to equip the saints for the work of ministry, for the building up of the body of Christ," that is the church, until we all attain to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, to mature manhood, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. He says, until we attain to mature manhood. Now that's better understood as fully matured humanness. That we attain fully matured humanness to the extent of the measure of stature of the fullness that Jesus was. So the purpose of church ministers is to make you fully human, fully bearing the image of God, fully bearing the image of Christ, who is the express image of God. Prior to the Reformation of the 15th or 16th century, ministers or priests were known by their Latin word cure, or in Spanish as I know it, curas, which is still present. Now, cura means healer or cure. That's where we get the word cure from. So healers, their job was to bring wholeness back to your souls, to your being. Sure, their theology led them to believe that this was achieved by partaking in the Eucharist each week and through confession and penance and so on. But the idea was correct. Ministers are healers, mending broken humanity back towards full humanity, whole humanity. Jesus identified with us in that he did not refer to himself as the Christ or God, but as the Son of Man, that would restore humanity to its high calling. Through him and his leadership and his example, he would lead us back to our high place. I want to encourage you all to find your true identity as amazing creatures of God. I want you to find that true identity in the person of Jesus of Nazareth. Too often we compare ourselves with other broken humans, when we have the example of the perfect human in Jesus. Jesus has taken his seat on the throne of creation, which Adam and Eve had vacated along with their descendants. And Jesus calls us up that mountain again to sit with him and partner with him in bringing shalom, wholeness, completeness to the world. Through our covenantal faithfulness to him, we can grow and become more like Jesus by obeying his Torah, his instruction, and being Christ-like. We can truly change the world. Are you wanting more from life than what you currently have? I encourage you to join the mission of Jesus. Make each day count. Let us be the kingdom of priests that brings God's blessing into our broken world. Let us be healers of broken souls. May God bless you this week.